Welcome back to BaldHeaded Metal, guys. My name is Joseph, and today we're doing our first review. Actually, it's going to be a review of a Lovebites Electric Pentagram, and this comes from a lot of fans that came to my page when I did a reaction to a couple of songs, and they weren't very happy with my approach of just analyzing the song and not really giving a chance to an album and not really giving a chance to this band. So what I thought was, despite all the negative comments that I got, I didn't really take any of them to heart. I said, you know what? The fair thing to do would be to listen to an album from beginning to end and see a work of art that these musicians created, and what the intent for you to listen is a full album. So I kind of went into it. If you have any issues with criticism to the band that you like, this review is most likely not going to be for you. I'm saying it up front because there's going to be a lot of positives that I really liked and some negatives which I didn't like. And I'm going to try my best to explain how I felt, so perhaps we can agree to disagree, right? Now let's get into the review without any further ado. And I want to start right off the bat. For the fans, you can calm down. I really like this album. I thought it was a really good album. I thought it was really fun. The thing that I liked about it the most is the breakneck pace. It's basically non-stop. It's like one after the other for like the good half of the album until they get, I believe, to Frozen Serenade. It's just non-stop. They kind of giving you this power metal, thrash metal, symphonic kind of influences all in there, just non-stop, right? They're just killing you with that sound. And I gotta say, I really like the guitar tone and the sound of the album. I really like it. Has this kind of chunky heaviness to it throughout the whole album. Not to mention, despite being classically trained musicians, they never lose that musicality and that heart in their music, which a lot of really technical bands tend to lose. I feel like Dragon Force or Yngwie Malmsteen tend to lose that in their tech because they're so technically proficient. Sometimes I listen to the music, it sounds mechanical. And in this case, it actually doesn't sound mechanical, it sounds great. It sounds chunky, it's pleasing to my ear, I love it. And the second part of the album, for me, kind of tapers off just a little bit. I don't think there's any particular bad song on the album, but there's songs that I have, you know, kind of indifferent feeling about. I know a lot of people really like Holy War. For some reason, I didn't really react to Holy War in the way that many people did. But for example, Thunder and Vengeance, or Thunder Vengeance, and Golden Destination, Raise Some Hell, I really like those songs. I thought they were great songs. Today's the Day was really great. Set the World on Fire was different. It has this different vibe to it that I also really like. And to my surprise, I actually really like Frozen Serenade. It has this kind of interesting change of pace, almost like a bluesy feel to it, and it has this really nice chunky sound at the later part of the song. So I kind of see their thinking behind this album as they were creating it, and I actually like their approach. What I didn't like about this album is I personally don't like any of the choruses. I don't like any of the choruses. They sound kind of like maybe overly symphonic, if I have to explain it. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. For some reason, I didn't like any of the choruses. And I think the thing with me that sticks is, how can I best describe it without getting any fan upset? I think she's a very skilled and wonderful singer, but I think in this particular band, for me personally, it just, for some reason, there's a jarring thing that doesn't fit. I know that's exactly the reason why some people like this. They like this, her singing, because it's jarring, and that's the thing that kind of that appeals to them. Where for me, it just doesn't. I don't know. There's something I can't really point a finger to. It just doesn't click. And I thought the album was just a little bit long. There's a slight fatigue that sets in. It's like 71-minute album, right? There's slight fatigue that sets in at the end of the album, and I kind of get to a point where like, okay, like when is the end coming? This happens to me in movies, in video games, and albums that I like. I can point to some albums that I think are like that, where you get by the end and you go like, okay, well, when is this gonna end? And that's usually never a good feeling for me, right? It's like it's saying like it's overstaying its welcome just a little bit. I'd rather be left wanting more than having to think like this was a little bit too much. One of the examples that automatically come to my mind was I really like this band called Satan's Host, but their album Predating God is just a little bit long. It's just, it overstays its welcome. Metallica Black, Injustice for All, this is a controversial one, I know, but I think Injustice for All overstays its welcome. I think every single song in the album is slightly too long. That's my opinion, right? But when it comes to bands that I like, that I don't like the singers, so you understand, I'm not doing this just with this band, right? For example, these are some of my favorite bands. Vector, I don't like the singing. I absolutely love the band. It's some blackened progressive thrash metal. Sacred Steel, I hate his voice. I absolutely hate his voice, but I love the music, so I listen to it. Absu, Lamb of God, actually, for a really long time, for some reason, I didn't like Randy's voice. And over the time, like I think it took a couple of years where I kind of got into his vocals, and actually now I love him. I love his vocals. Violence, I don't know if anybody knows this band. It's like an old school 80s thrash metal band. His voice is horrendous. I think his voice is horrendous. I don't like it. Love the music. I think it's an awesome thrash metal album. Except I actually don't like Udo's singing. I like their music. I don't like Udo's singing, so that's why I prefer the second singer that they have now. And Iron Maiden, I don't like Blaze Bayley. I love Bruce Dickinson, never liked Blaze Bayley. I know a lot of people really like his unique sound to his voice that he has, and I think that's the thing about this particular album with Lovebites. She has a unique sound to her voice, and I think it becomes a thing that you either latch on to and you like, or it just doesn't connect with you, and in my case, it just doesn't connect with me. But I think the influences I heard in this album, whether it would be Rhapsody, Rhapsody of Fire, Blind Guardian, Accept, Loudness, which is a Japanese-born band from the 80s, which I think they took a lot from Camelot, Symphony X. I saw a lot of these influences in this band, and I think they're all great influences to pull from, and they're probably the reasons why I like this band so much from this album, now listening it from beginning to the end, right? Because a reaction is in the moment reaction of how you feel. You don't have time to digest it. You just say what you feel in this moment in time. Whereas a review, I had some time to kind of ponder over it and get my thoughts together. In terms of, I know this album was nominated as one of the best heavy metal albums of the year. And, you know, for me, there was a couple of notable albums that came out that year that came from Mystic Prophecy, from Annihilator, Dark Fortress, Body Count. Testament had a really, really good album. Nightwish, which I've heard is good. I didn't listen to it. I've heard it was really, really good. Warbringer, Havoc, Firewind, which is very similar in style actually to Lovebites. If you guys enjoy that, Firewind has a great album. Mystic Prophecy as well. Paradise Lost released a new album. I really, really like the Lamb of God album. Heathen, which is again very similar in style to Lovebites. I believe this album is a little heavier than Heathen. Enslaved released a new album, which is prog metal, like kind of black metal, prog metal fusion. Intervals, Dark Tranquility, Sodom, Gamma Bomb. The reason I'm listing off so many albums is that that's just the albums that I know from the bands that I know. There's hundreds and hundreds of albums that came out that year. So I believe, yes, it's probably a contender for one of the better albums of the year. For me personally, it's probably not the best album, but I can totally see why people would put it in their ranking of one of the best albums they've heard of the year. Because, you know, at the end of the day, it's preference, right? It's what you prefer, it's what you like. And I think with this review, what I wanted to say is give a chance. Basically, guys, give me a chance to express my point of view. Because you see, as when I kind of go into it and give it time, I do enjoy it. I do like it. I don't pretend to like something. If I don't like it, I said this in the comments, if I straight up didn't like this album, I wouldn't listen to it anymore. I just move on. There's a couple of bands I already listened to that I just didn't like it. I'm not going to do another reaction. It's not my thing. I'm going to keep moving on. But if you guys keep requesting this, you know, I can always kind of do different songs from it. Now that you know that I like this kind of an album, you can recommend me maybe a different album, and I can review it as well. I would love to know your point of view. What do you agree with me here? What do you disagree with me here, right? What is your favorite album from Lovebites, by, you know, from your own kind of perspective? I think I put in a decent amount of the description of what I liked, what I didn't like, and it's really mostly the singing. It's the music for the most part I like. Coming from a perspective also from a Japanese metal scene, I know Japanese metal scene has been kind of exploding, I would say, in the last 10 years, right? In the last 10 years, there's a lot of bands that popped up. Their kind of level of musicianship also has gone up. You know, I kind of remember just listening to Maximum the Hormone back in the early 2000s, and at that time there was a lot of poppy stuff, whereas this is like legit heavy metal, really good. Loudness was like one of the only heavy metal bands. I have a Japanese client. I asked him, can you recommend me some Japanese heavy metal bands? He recommended me Loudness. If you guys can recommend me other bands, I would actually love this very much. But this is a review for Lovebites. I kind of want to keep it to that. And yeah, overall, if I have to give this album a rating, I give it like a solid 8 out of 10. The reasons why it's not anything higher than that, because I believe, like, I'll just kind of refresh. I thought it had a lot of really good addictive songs. I think the songwriting was really good. I think it has a really nice sound to the album. I didn't particularly connect with the later half of the album as much, and the fatigue set in for the album where it's kind of like, well, when is it going to end? I think I'm going to be adding this to my catalog, but what I'm going to do first is I'm going to listen to other albums and possibly review them as well, if you guys would be into that. If you're into it, let me know. And hopefully we can find some middle ground together, guys, on where we agree, where we disagree, and have a civil conversation. I'm going to say this right off the bat. If you come out aggressively, if you come out trying to bully me, if you're trying to, I'm just going to block you and delete your comments, and so you can never find this channel again, because it's not a productive way to talk about music. As you can see, I have not said anything really bad about this album. I'm not being aggressive. I'm not calling it shit, not calling it garbage. I'm trying to be as civil as possible. So that's what I'm going to expect from you as well. All right, I think it's fair to say. And hopefully, guys, you enjoyed this review. And if you did, let me know down below. Tell me what you think. Peace out, guys. Keep it metal. And if you have any other recommendations for Lovebites, I'm more than happy to hear you out. Take care.